would like to share something that was interesting that we found on a mold removal we did just recently. It was a small job, minimal areas affected with mold. Water came from above in hallway area and an adjoining wall and going in the next room or the next area. And it was apparent there was some mold there, and as in most cases, we would expect there to be more mold on the inside of the wall than what's apparent on the outside of the wall, and that's just typical or common. If you understand the principles of mold and what leads to mold, that's what you would expect to find. Mold will grow from dampness and time, and material surfaces on the inside of a wall cavity have less air exposure and less air exchange, and so that surface is likely to stay wet longer than the surface on the outside of the wall that's exposed to the air and to light and is likely to dry more quickly. And especially in the bottom of the wall, tend to find and would expect to find more mold because you have layers of dense materials stacked up against each other. Those materials touching each other, plus bottom of the wall, gravity and collects water, but those materials touching each other, it's likely that they'll stay wet longer. Well, because you have probably a baseboard, drywall, and then base plate and framing, and then if on the other side of the wall, probably the same thing, drywall and baseboard. So all those dense materials touching each other stay wet longer. In this instance, yeah, all those normal things were there, but also during the construction, rather than carry scrap drywall out and dispose of it, when the original construction was done or the space was finished, somebody cut drywall into strips and just filled up the wall cavity with them. So inside the wall, inside these wall cavities that we opened up, there was several layers of drywall that had just been set inside the wall for convenience purposes. It was used as a little dump site of its own, and there was all these extra pieces and layers of drywall that had just been disposed of inside the wall. Well, as I described, dense materials that have any organic content to them at all in the bottom of the wall, they're touching each other, they stay wet a lot longer, and a lot more mold develops there. Well, that's where we found huge concentrations of mold on this job. Was we expected to find more mold inside the wall cavity, but we opened it up, and besides the normal that was on the back of the drywall, there was all these additional pieces of drywall that had been disposed of and discarded inside the wall that really magnified the mold and the mold growth. Lots of mold on those extra materials that had been deposited in there, way more than we would have expected to find or in a normal situation. So may have seemed like a good idea at the time, just a convenience factor. Yeah, we'll put it in this wall will never be opened up in 100 years and nobody will know the difference, but that wall happened to get wet and led to a lot more mold than it needed to, and it's good that it was opened up and that large concentration of mold was discovered and removed.